Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Happy Friday. We are back with another Guerilla Sports Daily. I am your host for today, Liv Moods. As you guys know, we've got myself, we've got Jesse, we've got a few other people that are in rotation to host these Guerilla Sports Dailies every single day, every weekday. We will continue to do so in the regular season for the NFL, the NHL, the NBA. Like I said, I have said this many, many times before. We have content 7 days a week here at Guerilla Sports. If you're a hockey fan, Jesse and JJ have got you covered. If you like football, BK, Nate Jackson, and myself have got you covered. I will be covering the NBA here in the studio. Just had an awesome interview that released on Wednesday night with Katie Wingy, full-time Denver Nuggets reporter, host, analyst. So we've got a lot of exciting content coming your way, more to be had, but we've got a lot of stuff already existing on our social media channels and our YouTube. So if you're not subscribed or following, make sure you're doing that. Chat, I will be interacting with you a little bit today. We don't have all that much to talk about. So if you've got some super big questions or some hot takes that you want to drop, make sure you drop those. I've got Jesse on the board today helping me out in studio with me. So any questions or comments that you guys have, we may pop them up on the screen and have some conversation. But we do have a few topics to talk about today on this beautiful Friday. First and foremost, a little MLB. You guys know I'm not a huge baseball girl, but when there is a breaking MLB story, we've got to talk about Ernie Clement hits a home run. Now you're probably thinking, yeah, it happens all the time in baseball. Who cares? Well, this came off of a pitch that was 4.6 feet off the ground. If you're not a huge baseball fan like myself, 4.6 feet off the ground is very high. It's actually the second highest pitch for a home run in the StatCast era. So super high ball. One that most people normally wouldn't swing on, but not only did Ernie swing on it, he had a home run off of it. So pretty cool moment there. Like I said, second highest pitch from the ground in the StatCast era, meaning anything before that, it may have happened, but we don't have the stats for it. What we do know is, as of now, this is the second highest pitch off the ground, and he hit a home run off of it. So congratulations, Ernie. Super cool stuff. I want to talk a little bit about the Olympics, the Para-Olympics to be exact. I know that we spent a lot of time talking about the Olympics as a whole when Paris Olympics were in full swing. But Para-Olympics, there is actually an athlete that has come forward who had a tattoo of the Olympics ring. He has now spoken out after a rule change has been implemented that could ban him from the games at the Para-Olympics. So long story short, as you guys know, there kind of feels like a little bit of a rite of passage when you are a Olympic athlete and you get the rings tattooed on your body. We see athletes across the Olympics have this. Again, what an honor to be an Olympic athlete. So why wouldn't you want to brag about it and show it off on your body and permanently be reminded of the accomplishment that you have made in being an Olympic athlete? Well, in the Para-Olympics, you cannot have these rings on your body. Why? Well, the International Para-Olympic Committee, the IPC, has rules against body advertising, unlike the International Olympic Committee, the IOC. They are two separate entities. And based on some research that I have done, based on some things that I have seen, the IPC, which is the Para-Olympic Committee, this is actually not their logo, if you will. This is not how they represent themselves to the public with their branding. So in having these rings on your body when you are an athlete in the Para-Olympics, you are actually advertising for the IOC, not the IPC. To me, this rule does feel a little outdated. I think that, in my opinion, where my brain goes is that the Para-Olympics is an entity a part of the Olympics as a whole. So to me, there shouldn't really be that conflict. There shouldn't be any type of, I guess, competition, it feels like. It feels like what we're seeing from the IPC is, hey, we don't like brand advertising and body advertising, and you're actually advertising for the IOC, which is not what we are. But to me, they kind of go hand in hand. It is a branch attached to each other. They are both the Olympics in a sense. I know that the Para-Olympics brands themselves a little differently. They don't use these rings to brand the Para-Olympics, but nonetheless feels a little weird that the competition is so much so that now we have a rule where they're banning this from being visible on Paralympic athletes' bodies. So I guess if they were to get it in a place that it is not visible in their sport, I'm not sure it would be a problem, but if it is visible, you could be banned from the games at Paralympics. Like I said, this feels a little outdated. It feels a little weird to me considering in my brain, put the two together. They are two separate things, the IPC, the IOC. But to me, it's the Olympics. They're all Olympic athletes in my brain. So find it a little strange that this can warrant a banning of the Paralympics, but I digress. It is not my decision to make. Just know that if you are a Paralympic athlete, you cannot have these rings visible on your body, or you could be banned. Want to talk a little bit about Brian Flores. And if you were here with me on Wednesday, I spoke about him as well in regards to the comments that Tua had recently made on a podcast talking about his time with Brian Flores. He basically was comparing his time with Brian Flores compared to his time with Mike McDaniel. And he basically said, hey, if you had a coach that told you, I don't believe in you, this is not your job, you're not supposed to be here, compared to a coach that did the exact opposite, uplifted you, supported you, made you feel special and important, you would be two completely different players. And that's actually what we've seen from Tua in his career. We've seen him really excel under Mike McDaniel. Maybe it's because McDaniel runs a very creative offense, arguably one of the most creative offenses in the NFL. Or maybe it's because he just is a coach that likes to support his team. Regardless of whether his team is perfect or not, regardless of whether they always see eye to eye, Tua expressed that he feels much more support under McDaniel than he did with Brian Flores. Well, now, after that actually came out, Brian Flores was at a Vikings post-practice presser answering some questions. And before he could even get to the questions that the reporters wanted to know, he said, I'm going to answer the question that I think you're all wondering. Tua's comments that were made earlier this week. He basically expressed that he's proud of Tua. He's very happy for Tua. He's excited for what Tua has done. And that he, as a coach, has grown immensely since his time with the Dolphins. So what it seemed to me is that he took a lot of ownership. He acknowledged that what Tua said was not necessarily false, took some ownership, and that was the end of it, or so we thought. Well, Brian Flores has now come out and said he is claiming racial discrimination behind his firing in 2022. Now, I do want to have a little bit of sympathy towards Brian Flores. We know there is a large lacking of Black head coaches in the NFL. It seems to be a job that we don't hire a lot of Black men for, regardless of whether they've played the sport, regardless of their knowledge. It just doesn't seem like we have enough Black coaches in the NFL. This is a problem we've talked about for years and years and years. So could there be an ounce of racial discrimination involved here? Yes, I don't know the situation, so it's not fair of me to speak on it and say he's coming out of left field, none of this is true. It could be, but the timing does seem a little weird to me. He just took ownership for the comments that he had one point made to Tua. Tua called him a bad person, a terrible person. That's heavy words. That's heavy words. It's one thing to be a terrible head coach. It's another to be a terrible person. And so Brian Flores is probably feeling some type of way. So to come out now after pretty much taking ownership and in a very ass backwards way, giving Tua some type of apology. It wasn't an apology, but it was, hey, I'm super proud of you. I'm happy for you. I've grown a lot since then. To me, that was kind of an ass backwards apology. But nonetheless, now he is claiming racial discrimination behind his firing in 2022. Could there be some truth to that? Absolutely. There could be. We've seen it many times. We've seen this exact conversation happen many times in the NFL in regards to head coaches. But it does come after comments that Tua made earlier this week on a podcast. So it does make you wonder, is there some correlation there? It would seem very strange to me that a quarterback like Tua, who is not a white man, would be making these with any racial discrimination attached to it. So I'm not sure if the Tua comments are directly related to this, but the timing does seem very interesting to me. I don't know. I want to know from you guys in the chat. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like there is some truth behind what Brian Flores is saying? Or do you feel like maybe there's a little bit of deflection happening here? Maybe he's trying to make you watch somebody else so that he's not under fire for the things that Tua said earlier this week in regards to his character. I guess his character came into question a little bit in some type of way. So maybe this is some deflection. Maybe there's some truth to it. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Chat, let me know how you're feeling here. I'm not sure if you guys saw, but University of Colorado's Trevor Riley, he was the former special teams coach, okay, claims that CU sent him to Saudi Arabia to secure NIL money. Well, like I said, former coach. He is no longer on the coaching staff for the University of Colorado. CU is denying everything. They said he acted on his own accord. He is not a part of this staff anymore, but I wonder why. We're seeing this happen and unfold and unravel with the University of Michigan's football team, right? It should have been a huge red flag to us that Harbaugh, after winning a championship with Michigan, had no intentions of returning. And now what we're seeing is a lot of, text messages being deleted, other teams' play calling being copied, people spying and hiding out at practices and at games and trying to find ways to get ahead of their opponents. That is what Michigan is under fire for currently. And Harbaugh got the hell out of there. After winning a championship, he said, I'm good. I'm going to go to the NFL. Should have been a red flag to all of us that after winning a championship, he had no intentions of returning. We know that the NIL is something that is rapidly growing. It's becoming much more popular. On Wednesday, I talked about Oklahoma State and the QR codes that they will have on the back of their helmets for every game. That is a direct link to their team fund. We know that these football teams pump a lot of money into their universities. So it is only right that these student athletes reap the benefits, right? We watch them every Saturday, sometimes Friday nights, and they pump a lot of money into their universities. If you've ever been to a college football game, you know the money that you spend that day on drinks and food alone is insane. And the better the team, the higher the ticket price. So yes, these teams work very hard to get fan bases on board and pump money into their university. So NIL is very important in so many ways. And we know that on the next level in the NFL, the way in which these athletes get paid, it was only right for eventually that to trickle down into the college level with these student athletes. But again, if we're being sneaky, if we're being shady, if we're sending people to Saudi Arabia to collect NIL money, are we doing the most? We already know Deion Sanders is a big fan of the NIL. He's got the IG handles plastered on the back of their practice uniforms, which is something he started last season. And I think a lot of people were like, but it does make a lot of sense. These players are building their personal brands. But if we're being shady, if we're being sneaky, if we're doing things that we're not supposed to be doing, if we're bending rules, if we're going outside of the confines of the NIL, we already give these student athletes a lot of privilege with NIL. If we start abusing that, we're going to have some issues. And if we're not transparent and forthcoming about it, that also might become a problem. Trevor Riley says he has receipts. So Trevor, pull them. Okay. Coach Prime says, no way, Jose. We have nothing to do with this. He acted on his own accord. He is no longer a part of this coaching staff. Was that intentional? Did you start to wonder if maybe Trevor Riley was going to come forward with receipts that he did not act in this alone? And so you got rid of him. You pulled the plug. You said, you're out of here because he started to do a little too much talking. I don't know. I wasn't involved. I didn't go to Saudi Arabia. I wasn't in the meetings and conversations with this CU football team, but it'll be very interesting to see how this unfolds. Trevor claims he has receipts. If he starts pulling them, there may be a problem over in Boulder, Colorado. Might be an issue, but we will not know that until he pulls the receipts. So pull them, Trevor. Final thing I wanted to talk to you guys about today, Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes. Woohoo! Donating $5 million to Texas Tech's $242 million football upgrades. I mean, wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to have the Patrick Mahomes as an alma mater of your football team, donating $5 million to upgrade either the uniforms or the any resources they need. I don't know, but football upgrades, $5 million towards a $242 million fund. Texas Tech, it's the right place to be if you are currently on that team right now, Patrick Mahomes. And I will say, Patrick Mahomes, as a Broncos fan, I don't want to like him, but I do. I love what he does. I know that Brittany Mahomes is heavily involved in some sports teams, specifically, I believe, soccer. In Kansas City. They are very involved in the community. They do give back quite a bit. Patrick Mahomes, as we know, as much as we hate it, Broncos country, is the best quarterback in the league right now. He's the favorite to win MVP this season. The Chiefs are the favorite to win the Super Bowl again for the third year, potentially in a row. So Patrick Mahomes, as much as we don't want to love in Broncos country, hard not to, because he does give back a lot to his community, to his alma mater, to Kansas City. Unfortunately, he is a likable guy in so many ways. As a Broncos fan, I don't want to like him, but I do. There's moments I do like him. And Brittany Mahomes has grown on me. If you guys have been following me for some time, you know that this loudmouthed woman actually used to drive me up a wall. I thought she was over the top. I thought she was obnoxious. Patrick Mahomes has maybe the most obnoxious brother on the planet, unfortunately for him. And I think what made me the most irritated about this family dynamic is that Patrick Mahomes is the exact opposite. He's very calm, cool, collected. He's a very humble guy, despite being the best quarterback in the league by a lot. He's very humble. He keeps to himself, pretty peaceful, doesn't really stir up trouble, doesn't really cause problems, isn't super dramatic. And then his wife and his brother are the exact opposite. His mother also has had moments of being obnoxious. His father gets in trouble with the law quite a bit. I mean, he pretty much has a lot of people around him in his inner circle that don't emulate the same poise that he does. And he's pretty much the only one, in my opinion, that has the right to be obnoxious, and he's the only one that is not obnoxious. So I've had problems with her personally, just driving me up a wall, but do love and can honor what they do for their community in so many ways. So shout out to Brittany and Patrick Mahomes for donating to Texas Tech's football fund, a $242 million fund. Cedric says, bring more guests on Liv. Katie was dope. Absolutely. We have some very exciting guests on the docket. They are coming up very soon. I've been making some phone calls, sending out some texts, getting these guests solidified. So I'm not going to tell you who they are just yet until the interview actually happens. It's signed, sealed, delivered, and we can get it out to you guys. But I do have some very exciting guests on the horizon, talking all things NBA with me, all things Denver Nuggets. I'll let you guess maybe some of the guests that you think I might have, but very, very excited to have some of those people on the show. So Cedric, we will do absolutely more of that. I imagine that we're going to try to do the same thing for our off field show, as well as our off ice show. If you guys are not tuning into all things Guerilla Sports all the time, we literally have sports covered from every single angle, 25/8. We are talking sports here in the Guerilla Sports studio. And once we get into the NFL season, what you can expect from me personally, I'll let Jesse kind of talk about his game plan for the NHL, because quite honestly, I tune into the NHL during the playoffs and during the playoffs only. So I don't know what Jesse's got in store for you guys, but I do know he's got a lot of things cooking up, which is super exciting. But in regards to the NFL and the NBA world that I will be heavily involved in, for the NFL, we will have Nate Jackson on site in the stadium, as well as BK grabbing some sound for us, talking to some players. And I will be in studio every Broncos game, post-game, talking through what did we just watch? How are we doing? How are we feeling, Broncos country? You can expect that every single week during the NFL season. You can also expect some post-game lives to come back for the NBA season. Hope Bo is good. I agree with you, Cedric. It would give us a lot more exciting things to talk about on the show if Bo has a great season. I do think that he will. I'm feeling very, very excited. In the world of NFL, we also know that in this time period where preseason, I know preseason doesn't always matter, but we've got a lot of people being named QB1s. Bo Nix, we talked about this week, named QB1 by Sean Payton. Very exciting stuff. I feel like that's kind of a duh moment. That was the only person that I felt like deserved that starting spot. So congratulations to Bo Nix. I believe. Bojo with the mojo. Okay, we've got a lot of exciting things happening over here in Denver for Broncos country. We know Gardner Minshew named QB1 for the Raiders. My hot take for the Broncos season is this. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just telling you how I feel, okay? The Broncos will finally beat the Raiders, not once, but twice this season, both on the road and at home. You can actually bet that exact bet in the FanDuel Sportsbook app right this very minute. I did sprinkle on it. Guilty, sue me. I think it's a good bet. I'm very excited. I feel very optimistic about the Denver Broncos. I know Jesse doesn't, though. I had some conversations with Mr. Jesse, who's on the board producing the show right now. Yeah, there he is. Look at him shaking his head. He's like, I don't think it. I think Jesse believes that the Broncos fans in this studio are maybe getting a little ahead of ourselves. But if you know, you know. When are we not getting ahead of ourselves? You should have seen me fly into the online store to buy a Russell Wilson jersey. We know how that ended. I have stayed away from Bo Nix jerseys. Don't worry. I'm not going to touch them until we start seeing some football happening, okay? I'm not going to jinx this poor guy the way that I did Wilson. Could there be a level of us jumping the gun? Absolutely. But isn't that what being a sports fan is all about? You know, we hold our teams to a very high standard. We're very tough on them, but we also love them unconditionally. In a very ass-backwards way, we love them unconditionally. They hurt our feelings. They stress us out, but we love them anyway. So Broncos, please don't let me look stupid for the 13th year in a row at this point. I mean, come on. I'm feeling good, though. Gardner Minshew named QB1. Bo Nix was named QB1 this week. I think we're still waiting on how things are going to transpire out in Pittsburgh with Russell Wilson versus Justin Fields. We'll have to see how that goes. So a lot of exciting stuff to come. How are the Lakers going to do this season? So I know you're always on Twitter. You're always responding to my Lakers content. Not even that. You're always responding to my Nuggets content. And for that, I respect you because you are very consistent. I will give you that. Here's what I think about the Lakers, okay? And no, I am not being a troll. My honest opinion on the Lakers this upcoming season is that with LeBron James and Anthony Davis on their side, they are always in a position to be great. They're always in a position to shock people. They do it many years. They did it last year and they did it the year before that, where it's like, oh, okay, the Lakers are here. They're ready to go. This is not a team that I cared about in the regular season. And all of a sudden in the postseason, we might need to care about this team, okay? Despite the consistent ass whoopings that the Nuggets deal the Lakers for the last 2 seasons straight, I will withhold my bias and I will tell you this. With LeBron James and Anthony Davis on their side, there is always a potential for the Lakers to be successful. Always. You've got LeBron James, okay? There's also a whole new coaching staff that may be able to make some really great things happen for this Lakers team. However, outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the Lakers roster is severely unserious to me. One of your draft picks was Bronny James, who averaged around 5 points per game in college. Some may say, well, he was injured. Right. Most players don't get drafted to the NBA after an injured season with limited touches. Most players need a little more time to prove that they're worthy of the NBA, but we know. LeBron James and Bronny James playing together is an honor in itself. It is cool. We haven't seen it. It is amazing. It's historic. We love it. That doesn't mean the Lakers got better when they brought Bronny James on board. They didn't to me. It's a very unserious roster outside of those 2 guys, but with those 2 guys, it's always a possibility. So no, I am not high on the Lakers. No, I would not bet on them to win the Western Conference Finals. But could they? Yeah, maybe. They've got LeBron James still. As long as they've got him, there is always a chance. But no, I don't really have all that much faith in the Lakers this season. I think every team in the Western Conference has gotten significantly better. You've got a healthy Ja Morant, fingers crossed, coming into this season. OKC had an incredible offseason and addressed the issues that they had. Despite being the 1 seed in the West, they did struggle in the postseason, and I think they addressed those issues. They got some depth. They brought on some veterans. I think that the OKC is going to be a force to be reckoned with. We know that the Timberwolves continue to rise and elevate themselves every single season. The Mavs shocked everybody last year. They just brought on Klay Thompson. There's a lot of stuff shaken up in the Western Conference. So to me, the Lakers made some pretty unserious moves in the offseason, and other teams made some pretty serious ones. So anything can happen with LeBron James on your side, but I wouldn't put my money on it. I'll just leave it at that. Chat, I appreciate you guys for being here. We went through a little bit of MLB, some historic home run moments. We went through some Paralympics drama. We talked a little bit about Brian Flores now with his second statement of the week, making some pretty stiff accusations that I'm sure the NFL will now have to dive into and defend themselves one way or the other. We talked a little bit about CU and their NIL troubles, and Patrick Mahomes, Broncos country. I know we want to hate him, but he is doing good things for his alma mater as well as the city of Kansas City. So gotta love him for that. And that's all I've got for you, fam. Love you guys. Appreciate you for being here. Happy Friday. Whatever you do this weekend, make sure you stay blessed, stay healthy, be safe. have a good time. It's Friday. Go party. Go grab a drink. Thanks for hanging with me. We are going live today with our Broncos show soon, actually. I believe, Jesse, if I'm not mistaken, 30 minutes from now, 11 p.m. today. a.m. I'm sorry. Hello, 11 a.m., 30 minutes. 11 a.m. Mountain Time. Nate Jackson and BK will be joining me right here in the studio. We'll be talking all things Denver Broncos. They've got another preseason game coming up. We'll dive into what does it look like with Bo Nix at QB1. What can we expect week 1, week 2, week 3? I'm very excited. We'll probably try to break down the Broncos schedule a little bit, predict where we'll see some wins, where we'll see some losses. So make sure you're tuning in later today for that. Like I said, give us a subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on all things Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, because we'll be dropping social clips all 7 days a week. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Friday, and we will see you in just a little bit for Off Field with Nate Jackson, BK, and myself. See ya.